We are wrestling. We are wrestling podcast.
They give a shout out to We Are Wrestling on YouTube.
You're watching We Are Wrestling.
I'm the host with the most.
You are by far the least intelligent.
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling.
What's going on? We are Wrestling Maniacs Worldwide. Ben here, the third of the talk show.
We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
We are wrestling.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, Mr. We Are Wrestling himself, the best one, Donnie, here with...
What's going on, everybody? Danny Huckins here, man. 1/3 of We Are Wrestling, and me and Donnie riding solo this week, man. We had to change some things up. It's hard for all three of us to get together or whatever. I don't know if Donnie explained to you. But so yeah, it's only me and Donnie this week. What's going on, brother?
That's right, and this week we have an eventful wrestling week because we have not one, but two big events on, this week. We have, Night of Champions, which, is out today when the podcast comes out. And tomorrow, we have AEW Double or Nothing, which on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel, we're going to be doing back-to-back watch-alongs. For Night of Champions, it will be Danny and maybe Ben. And on Sunday, it will be Danny and I doing it. But before we dive into the topics for We Are Wrestling 58, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, the best way to support us is by hitting that subscribe button now, turning on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO. And of course, you already know the grind is real. And before we dive into our topic 6 this week, Danny, you mentioned something about the whole, We Are Wrestling, schedule with the podcast, because we haven't really had you, me, and Ben on here, and I haven't updated the We Are Wrestling Maniacs that are listening or watching about that. And honestly, I think, to start the podcast off, I think we definitely should talk about it, because that's one thing we like to do here on, the We Are Wrestling podcast. We like to, keep our fans, in the loop of things. And right now, we're all working completely different schedules outside of, the content creating. I'm working first shift Monday through Friday. Ben's working third shift. And, Danny is just on the grind 24/7. And we just haven't really had a perfect time that works for all three of us. So every week we're, rotating it now. I'm still going to be consistent on the show because I can work with both schedules for Danny and Ben. Danny and I, we record them on Wednesdays. Me and Ben, we record them on Thursdays.
Yeah, so 1 week it'll be me and Donnie, 1 week it'll be Donnie and Ben. I feel like that's until we can get, the scheduling worked out, and, it's pretty much works best. So the time that the podcast comes out is remaining the same every Saturday. So that's not going to change. It's just, who's going to be on it 1 week. So 1 week it'll be me, 1 week so I'm on this week, next week will be Ben, and vice versa. That's pretty much how we're going to go. So,
and sometimes it could be all three of us too, depending on how the schedule works.
Depending, it could be all three of us. But that's really like the only major change. Like as far as like when the podcast comes out, still gonna be on Saturday unless Donnie's busy on the weekend, then he'll have to like move a day or something. But that's really the only real change. So just keep looking out for the podcast every Saturday, man.
That's right. And with that being said, this is a new thing that I've been doing on the We Are Wrestling podcast. We started it last week with Ben and I, and let's talk about this week in pro wrestling and some of the things that you liked, like your highlight of the week so far for pro wrestling.
This week, I don't really have a highlight for this week, man. I mean, we're only on Wednesday, obviously at the time recording, so there's still a lot of days, left. I don't really have like a real highlight, as of now. Uh, I did like the Bloodline stuff on Friday. I mean, if that counts,
That
because
does count.
technically that was last week, but I did like the start of the Bloodline because we finally got to see Roman's interaction with the Usos after losing at WrestleMania or whatever. So adds different elements to the story, like I said it was going to. And we're gonna have to look forward to we're probably what's weird about this, bro? Right now, right this very second, if everybody on this video right now on this podcast clicks on the channel link, I could be live right now on the channel at the time, and you guys can, watch Night of Champions with me. So it's fucking weird, man. So but yeah, I like the Bloodline stuff, man. We're gonna have to see what happens on Saturday.
My highlight of the week so far, I gotta say, I really enjoyed Monday Night Raw, the way that they built the show around the whole Cody Rhodes, kayfabe, arm injury. And I gotta say, like, I love the intensity that this new Brock Lesnar is bringing, and they're really furthering this storyline. And I gotta say, I'm really getting behind it. A
I
lot
wasn't
more.
that
The build was terrible going into Backlash, but now they're building something even bigger out of this, and I think that this is going to definitely further Cody Rhodes' road to Roman Reigns and going for that, WWE Universal Champion.
yeah. And I like, you know, I don't know. I do know how they can get Cody Rhodes back on SmackDown. I don't know if you want me to mention an hour wait, but I have an idea.
Go right ahead, spill that idea.
So I think what they could do, because obviously we have AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins happening on at Night of Champions, to crown the new World Heavyweight Champion. If for whatever reason AJ Styles wins, the OC and AJ Styles get traded over to Raw, and for AJ and them going to Raw, have Cody go to SmackDown, and they can have the entire summer to build up to the match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of possibilities that can happen.
And then you can save Money in the Bank with somebody like LA Knight or Gunther.
Yeah,
So that's what I think.
there is a real possibility, but I think realistically, what I see happening, with Roman versus Cody, I think that, this is going to happen at WrestleMania 40, whether, you like it or not. They want to build, the hard times storyline with Cody like they did with, Dusty to get to that title, and it took a whole year. And they're doing something similar to like John Cena with The Rock when, Cena, lost the first time to The Rock. John Cena had to face, hardship, and, they had him, have a pretty tough road to get back to The Rock and to, not only, beat The Rock, but also get back to WWE champion. And I think with, Cody Rhodes, it's going to be a similar, road that we're taking. I think that him versus Brock Lesnar at Night of Champions, this won't be the last match that they have. And I think, at either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, they're going to have, it's going to be 1-1 because Brock's going to beat Cody due to the arm injury. And I think, at SummerSlam or, Money in the Bank, we're going to have, some type of stipulation match, like maybe like a 3 stages of hell or like a Hell in a Cell match between the two. And that's where Cody's going to, defeat Brock. And then Cody's going to move on to, the next hardship during this, run. And he's pretty much going to work his way, I think, to the Rumble. And then Cody's going to end up, winning it. And that's how he's going to get to Roman at Mania, which I don't want him to be a back-to-back winner. But that's the only way I could think of, unless WWE does like a trade or something in between.
Yeah. I mean, it can go in many different directions or whatever. I don't want to see Roman versus Cody at WrestleMania again, because regardless of what anybody says, the next match they have is not going to be anything near even as close as good as the match this year at WrestleMania was. So I'm sick of seeing that. We've seen Brock versus Roman 2 years in a row. We've seen John Cena versus The Rock 2 years in a row. I don't want to see Roman
I
versus Cody 2 years
disagree.
in a row.
I gotta
Um,
disagree with that.
I don't think the match Cody should have won at WrestleMania. I don't think, Plus, like Roman, like over the next couple months, he's gonna be taking even more time away from WWE than he does now. I feel like the sooner you get the title off of him, the better. And I don't want it to go past SummerSlam.
No, and that's, totally understandable because, this title run has been going on for a very long time. And I believe I said this a few weeks ago on, the We Are Wrestling podcast. I think that, there's pros and cons to Roman Reigns being champion. There is nobody bigger in wrestling itself than Roman Reigns right now. But when you're having a title run for 3 years like this, it's going to take away from, making superstars like Clash at the Castle, Drew McIntyre. That's like the perfect example. They had, a perfect opportunity to give Drew McIntyre that opportunity that he missed out on because of the pandemic. And, they ended up blowing that. And now look at Drew McIntyre. He's about to be out the door and go to AEW as Drew Galloway.
That'd be really insane if that happens, man. I don't know. I don't know. I just know for a fact I don't want to see Cody and Roman at WrestleMania next year. I don't want to see it.
And I'll tell you what's not going to help either. When Seth Rollins wins the World Heavyweight Championship tonight at, Night of Champions, he's going to go on to having one of the best, world title runs, and it's really going to diminish Roman Reigns a lot. And a lot of people aren't going to be giving Roman the credibility that, he's, worked towards with this historic title run.
I don't know.
Because Rollins is going to be a defending champion, and I think he's going to really make, Raw very prestigious. I think that he's going to really push this world championship. He's going to be, a defending champ. And I think that, Rollins is really going to take advantage of this opportunity, and more people are going to get sick of Roman's title run due to it.
I mean, there's a lot of reports coming out that WWE is very iffy and skeptical about giving Rollins the title because of obviously, his role in Captain America, even though how, nobody knows how big or small it really is.
We did talk about that. That was our main event topic last week on We Are Wrestling 57.
So we don't know what they're planning. Like, everybody could be like, it's gonna be Rollins, and then WWE can swerve us, and because regardless of what anybody says, I do think AJ deserves a title too. It's weird that they put these two in a match because they're both very well deserving competitors.
I'll tell you right now, the way that they've been building this, me personally, I'm really behind Seth Rollins right now, and I wish that they did the same thing that they've been doing the last couple weeks with Seth Rollins with AJ Styles. Like maybe have Michael Cole sit with AJ Styles and show the way he got brought into the business and really show that, because with Seth Rollins, they're really diving into him and they're really getting us viewers that are listening and watching this really invested in a WWE with Seth Rollins as the face of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I really love these, this one-on-one interview that they did the last couple weeks with Rollins and Corey Graves. I wish they did that with AJ Styles, but I understand why they put him on the Grayson Waller effect, because, they want to also push Grayson Waller as well, and having a guy like AJ Styles in a segment with him is definitely going to elevate him more. But I feel like, they should have done the same thing that they did with Rollins to really make this feel very important.
Yeah. So, I mean, this match can go in any direction. It's just, they're making the most out of it,
Yes.
Because obviously AJ's on SmackDown, Rollins isn't on Raw. You can't have the cross brand this soon anyway. Even though Shotzi Blackheart was on Raw Monday, and technically she's a SmackDown superstar. She got drafted to SmackDown, so it's a little fucking weird to me. But yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're. WWE has no idea. They don't know if they're coming or going at times.
Yep.
This whole draft, I feel like, was a giant waste of fucking everybody's time.
Yeah, for the most part, I got to agree with you on that. But yeah, my highlight of the week definitely had to be, the whole storyline with Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar because they really got me invested now. Your highlight of the week was, what was it
The blood,
again?
the bloodline, man. Then there's the beginning of SmackDown on Friday.
That's right. And, now let's get into the topics for this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling Podcast 58. So, our first topic we have Dark Side of the Ring is going to be returning to Vice TV on Tuesday, May 30th. And this is season 4 of the show where, they try to show the dark sides of, professional wrestling. And I'm going to name the episodes that we can expect to see on, season 4 of, Dark Side of the Ring. And I want to know what you think about it. So here are the 10 episodes that we could be expecting for this season of Dark Side of the Ring. We have an episode with Chris Candido and Tammy, aka Sunny, Magnum TA, Adrian Adonis, Doink the Clown, which I think that is Matt, the original guy that played Doink.
Matt Osborne, I think his name is. He was a
Matt
really
Osborne.
bad. He died of a drug overdose. He was a really bad drug addict back in the day.
Junkyard Dog, Marty Jannetty, Bam Bam Bigelow, Abdul the Butcher, Bash at the Beach 2000, and the Graham family.
I'm actually really looking forward to Bash at the Beach 2000. I haven't heard any like notorious stories about around that event, so I'm wondering what this episode is going to be about
I can tell
outside
you
of
what
just
it
the
is.
show. Fill me in without giving any spoilers.
Okay, so Bash at the Beach 2000, this was a WCW pay-per-view that happened, and there was a lot of creative issues going on at the time because Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo, Turner Network, they kept switching the two for creativity, and this is around the time where Vince Russo was running WCW, and his goal was to, push their homegrown talent, push their younger talent, and guys that are consistently on TV and not part-timers like Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So the whole plan for Bash at the Beach 2000 was for Booker T to win the World Heavyweight Championship that night. And Hulk Hogan, in his contract, it has a thing where any creative decisions regarding Hulk Hogan has to be made by Hulk Hogan. So if Hulk Hogan doesn't want Booker T winning the championship, then it's not going to happen because that's what Hulk Hogan's contract states. So it became a situation where Hulk Hogan, they kept pitching him ideas. He kept, denying it. He, wasn't invested in what they had. And they had, a lot of disagreements because Vince Russo, had something against Hulk Hogan, which is what a lot of WCW people said in, reports. And what happened was Jeff Jarrett was supposed to face Hollywood Hulk Hogan for the World Championship. And what happened was Jeff Jarrett, went into business, for his buddy Vince Russo and, laid on the floor. Hogan, got the 1, 2, 3. And pretty much, Hogan had the title because Vince Russo was trying to make an example out of him. And Hogan threw the title and pretty much said, like, oh, this is why WCW is going out of business, brother. This and that. And it was legitimate. That was Hulk Hogan's last, pay-per-view in WCW. Last time we saw him. And then, Vince Russo came out and did a shoot promo and like came at Hulk Hogan badly, which caused legal issues between the two. And then Jarrett fought Booker T, and then Booker T ended up winning the title. And yeah, there was a lot of chaos during Bash at the Beach 2000.
I want to see some of those fucking shoot promos and stuff like that. They were actually on the show.
Yep, Vince Russo went on and went into business, putting all the boys in the back over and pretty much burying Hulk Hogan.
Well, I mean,
Hogan ended up suing him because of it.
Hulk Hogan does like, I don't know the guy, obviously he's a legend, Hulk Hogan is one of the very few guys that transcends past pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Like, he had cartoons, he had cereal boxes, he had this, he had that.
Hogan knows breast, brother.
I mean, he probably had fucking Hulk Hogan vibrators for all we know back then. Like,
Oh my God, you almost made me choke on my water.
It buzzes and say, "Hey, brother."
Oh, brother. Oh, shit.
But I mean, in reality, that's true, man. Like Hulk Hogan is one of the very few guys, him and Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior. Like these guys, they transcend past pro wrestling.
Bigger than
Um,
wrestling.
you know, but I have heard that Hulk Hogan is what I don't know if he is now, but he used to be, he used to think he was better than everybody else, and I mean, in a lot of cases, maybe he had every right to feel that way. I'm not sure. So
He
that
was one
does
of the
sound
biggest needle movers in wrestling, so I could see why he would have an ego like that.
it very much sounds like a Hulk Hogan thing to do, though.
Yeah, because, we've seen it throughout the years in pro wrestling because there is a lot of politics that get involved and, guys want to be better than, the other guy. And we've seen it with a lot of top guys. We've saw, the worst in Hulk Hogan. We've saw the worst in Ultimate
Remember
Warrior.
that? Remember
We've
the
saw
fucking.
also too, we've saw the worst in Shawn Michaels and even Bret Hart, one of, the top baby faces in, wrestling.
Remember when that shit was going on back in like probably like 2009, 2010. You're probably too young at the time. You probably heard about it.
Yeah.
But remember when that sex tape thing was going on, Hulk Hogan supposedly fucked Bubba the Love Sponge's wife. He
Yep.
was like Bubba the Love Sponge was like a cuck and like, let his friends like bang his wife or whatever, and it was on security camera and fucking I guess Bubba the Love Sponge sold it to a fucking some kind of like porn distribution center and it went
Yeah, I
fucking
did see something
everywhere.
on all that stuff because I remember, a lot of, shoot interviews and stuff between, both sides of them.
Mhm.
But I gotta say, man, Bash at the Beach 2000, that's gonna be a really good episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
We
Definitely
just
one you might have to watch.
I'll watch it. We just got to find a place to watch it. Neither one of us have Vice TV.
I'm gonna find a way because this season, like, I'm looking at these episodes right now, and I gotta say, I'm very impressed with them.
If you
I'm
find a way, you better send me a link.
Oh, absolutely, brother. But I
And
gotta say, some of these
Junkyard Dog, he passed away in a car accident, I believe. He didn't like I don't know. It was really tragic, but I don't know if he had like then he like I don't know. I know he passed away in a car accident supposedly. He
I
was
gotta
on it.
say, like, for me, man, like, the episodes that I'm looking forward to the most, definitely Bash at the Beach 2000. That's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to, seeing Marty Jannetty's, episode because I know there's a lot of, controversy with him, the past, ever since
Marty
he left
Jannetty's gonna
WWE.
Marty Jannetty's gonna be at the Wrestling Classic next month, man. We're 1 month away from the Wrestling Classic, so make sure you guys come see us if you want to see Marty Jannetty too.
That's right. South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass on Saturday, June 17th. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing Bam Bam Bigelow's episode because
Mhm.
I've always enjoyed his work. And one of my, childhood friends, like his mom was actually related to Bam Bam Bigelow. I believe it was her cousin. So that's definitely going to be an interesting episode to watch. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing the Chris Candido and Sonny episode because I've, heard lots of stories about all that, like with the whole, Sonny and Shawn Michaels stuff.
Sonny's in prison right now for fucking vehicular manslaughter. She fucking got in a car accident and fucking killed an old guy at in a parked car. She
Yep.
was drunk.
I remember that, and she's really had a dark, ever since like she left WWE, she's, dealt with addiction and she's been getting into a lot of trouble with alcohol. And yeah, this is going to be a very interesting season. I like how they, bring old school into it. And I also really like how, they also do episodes on certain things like the Bash at the Beach 2000. They also did one, during the whole, brawl tournament thing during the Attitude Era, the brawl out with like the boxing gloves and stuff. I forgot Brawl for All. It was the Brawl for All. So like I like how they do that at times as well, like the whole plane ride to hell.
That's
Like
the
I
only
like
one.
how they
That's
covered
the
this
only
stuff
the plane
because
ride.
like WWE is not covering it or
The
anybody else isn't covering it.
The plane ride from hell is the only episode that I've actually watched. I won't watch like the Owen Hart one. I can't just stuff like that that deals with like a legitimate like I can watch an episode about a guy that like passed away because maybe he has an addiction or something like that, which is very common in pro wrestling. But for a guy to pass away because of a freak accident and stuff like that, I can't watch that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
You want to know why I watched that episode with Owen Hart? Because there was a lot of, drama with, Bret Hart and, the Hart family and, Owen's wife. And a lot of people in the wrestling community would, they were taking Bret Hart's side of it. Like, why isn't, they're allowing Owen to be honored in WWE, this and that. And with Dark Side of the Ring, we got to really hear Martha and, like the kids with all the pain they had to go through during that, traumatic time in their life. And we got to understand why Martha doesn't want WWE to make profits off of Owen Hart. And like, even, showing the scaffold thing that broke, that like, man, that hit me in the feels, man. I cried during that. And even with like Chris Benoit's episode, like we got to, hear from his son, David Benoit, who's still alive, and like a lot of the stuff that he had to deal with, after Chris Benoit died.
That's David. That's the one that Chris Van Vliet interviewed, right? Bro,
Yes.
he looks like a spitting image of his father, bro. Oh my god! Every time you look in the mirror, you think of your dad. I feel so bad for that.
But here's the perspective that I want you to look at it from. Dark Side of the Ring, it's very sad because it's like, covering a lot of like the bad in wrestling. But no, hear me out real quick. But here's the thing that I like about Dark Side of the Ring. They're giving a platform for people like Martha and David Benoit to, share their story to the stuff that, traumatically happened in pro wrestling. Because before that episode of Owen Hart came out, everybody hated Martha and hated how she, wouldn't let WWE, honor Owen Hart because of, profits and stuff, because that's where, her husband died. But you got to really hear her side of it that, we didn't get to hear. And now a lot of people understand and, have love for, Owen Hart's, family, and they understand why they, feel the way that they feel.
I might have to check it out at some point.
But definitely, man, I got to say, Dark Side of the Ring, if you're interested in, watching this show, it's on Vice TV. It'll be coming out, new episodes every Tuesday starting May 30th, which will be this upcoming Tuesday. Definitely not going to want to miss it.
Do you know what the first episode is?
The first episode, I think, is Chris Candido and Sonny, I think.
Sounds about right.
I don't know 100%, but that's like the first one that was on the list here. So
I wonder if they'll add any. I wonder if they'll take some of the profits and add them to fucking Sonny's, some money in her fucking account while she's locked up in fucking jail for murder.
I hope not, but we'll have to wait and see. But guys, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling Podcast 58. Saturday, June 17th, 2023, both Captain's Corner and Zombie Hideout are bringing professional wrestling back to the New England area with the Wrestling Classic 3, which will be a wrestling convention bringing in some of the best wrestlers throughout the years at this event in Springfield, Mass, at the South End Community Center. You can meet Hall of Famers Kurt Angle, Lex Luger, DDP, AEW stars, The Guns, and so many more classic stars to be announced on Saturday, June 17th. And for the first time ever, We Are Wrestling. We're going to be a vendor. We're going to be working with Zombie Hideout and Captain's Corner with this event. Best One Donnie has had the opportunity to go to both the Wrestling Classic 1 and 2. And let me tell you, the Wrestling Classic 3 is going to be like no other. And if you want to, have an opportunity to meet some of the best in the business, they will be in Springfield, Mass on Saturday, June 17th. South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass. Also, the We Are Wrestling team will be there with a table. We'll be having merchandise, and we'll also be giving away some stuff as well. And of course, you already know, we'll be vlogging as well. You're definitely not going to want to miss this event. Get your tickets now. We're back, and our next topic on this week's episode of the podcast, we've heard these reports, since 2019. WWE is considering the idea of making Monday Night Raw's third hour more adult themed. What are your thoughts on these reports, and do you think Triple H can make this third hour being more adult orientated work?
Bro, I've been hearing these reports came out a couple months ago. I've been hearing them on and off for a couple of months. I don't think Raw should be 3. I don't think Raw should be 3 hours. What could they possibly do in that third hour, to make it more adult oriented, bro? Like, there's still kids in the audience.
Yeah, that's something I did see on, the wrestling Twitter. It's like, okay, so at 10 o'clock, do all the parents bring their kids out of the arena and we get the adult, themed Raw? Like, it doesn't really make sense like that.
It really doesn't. And I don't see parents allowing their kids to stay up until the show's over unless they're actually there.
Yeah, and I can tell you from going to Monday Night Raw back in, I think it was 2022 or 2021.
Yeah, it was last year you went with Jordan and them.
Yep. So I gotta say, man, seeing the crowd, a lot of them were parents and kids. And that's why I always say, the hardcore fans, they're not at the wrestling shows. We watch it on TV or we're at the pay-per-views. When it comes to the actual TV shows, it's the casuals in WWE. AEW, they always have a hardcore fan base, but there are, parents with kids going to those shows too.
I bet you they
but
don't.
Not as much as WWE.
I bet you they're not recurring customers though if they don't know what AEW is.
I think some of the parents don't care that, bring their kids to these AEW shows. I know my dad, when WWE was TV 14, he didn't care. And a lot of the teachers would, tell my dad, oh, why is your son, why are you letting him watch wrestling? Why are you because of course, as a kid, I would always wear, my John Cena shirt to school. And I would always, wear my wrestling shirts. And my dad would always say, well, I would rather him be watching, guys wrestle than playing with guns.
That's pretty much it, man.
Makes sense.
It does. But I don't if they can manage to do it, cool. I just don't see how they can do it, man. Majority of the audience that goes there is kids and families, wanting a night out or whatever. I don't see them bringing back, bra and panty matches and stuff like that for the third hour, especially around a bunch of fucking kids. And
not with the women's revolution too.
What the fuck? I don't see how they could do more adult. Oh, and instead of saying, but you can say ass in the third hour. That's good shit.
Here's the thing that kind of gets me upset about all of this, reports coming out. So WWE is considering this third hour, and I think the reason why these reports speculated more because Nick Khan did a recent interview and talked about the future of WWE and dived into a lot of things. I think that's why it's getting brought up again. But here's the part that kind of pisses me off. You fire Mandy Rose because she's, wants to do OnlyFans. Yet you want to have more adult themed for your third hour of Raw. What sense does that make?
That's why it doesn't make any sense. I don't see that.
And that's where my issue is, man. Like with the third hour of Raw, I wish that they can go back to 2 hours. I wish.
And
that's everybody's dream is for WWE to go back to 2 hours.
Having the third hour more adult oriented, that's not going to make the show any better. You got to have legit storytelling to make the show good, bro. For years they were PG. But guess what? Some of the storylines were pretty good. Some of the storylines were very captivating. Remember when fucking Edge had that feud with Kane back in like 2011 or whatever, and he spent the entire SmackDown running around the arena, fucking had Paul Bearer duct taped to a fucking wheelchair.
Oh, that's Kane and Undertaker.
No, that was Edge. That was Edge.
Oh,
Back in
yes.
2011.
Okay. Okay. You're right. You're right.
Back
But
in
that's the
2011.
thing. Like, when it comes down to it, it's all about the television show and what is adult orientated themed going to do for the product. Is it going to further the product?
Not
No, we're
really.
in a different time now. And back in the day, the Attitude Era, will always be one of the greatest, eras in wrestling, period. But we can't recreate history. And,
Exactly.
wrestling is going in a whole new direction now, especially with, the women's revolution and, more in-ring stuff is being, focused on rather than, the storylines and stuff. And I gotta say, like, adult themed doesn't make any sense. Like,
I will say,
especially if parents are buying tickets for them and the kids, and then you think that they're going to leave at hour 2, you might as well friggin' give me my money back.
I do think pro wrestling should not be a family friendly thing. It's entertainment where guys beat the fuck out of each other. And like hearing like, I'm gonna kick your butt, on Sunday. Like I do wish they would go to TV 14, allow sort of the language barriers to, drift
Even
and more adult
PG-13's
oriented stuff.
okay.
But like if you're in a fight with somebody or you're in a feud with somebody, you're not gonna be like, I'm gonna kick your butt. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna kick your ass, dude. I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, you know what I mean? Like I wish they would, allow the language because it makes people feel more natural in their natural element instead of I'm gonna kick your butt on Sunday. It just doesn't sound natural,
You just
A
sound like
grown
Jim
a
Cornette for a
a
second.
a grown adult saying, "I'm gonna kick your butt." No, I'm gonna kick your ass. And what? There's nothing you can do about it. I'm gonna whip your ass on Sunday. You know what I mean? I wish they would allow the language to be a little bit more adult oriented. That way, the performers, when they're cutting promos and stuff like that, building up to matches, it would make it sound more natural.
Well said. I gotta say, that was like one of your best takes. But, something I want to add to that, like making it more adult orientated is not going to do anything for WWE at all. We even saw them, trying to adjust things. They even tried doing like a Raw Underground, and that thing didn't even work.
I didn't even watch that.
There's nothing you can do to make 3 hours work. The television show should be 2 hours. 2 hours of Raw, 2 hours of AEW Dynamite, 2 hours of NXT, 2 hours of SmackDown,
It used
and
to
then
be
your
2 hours and
pay-per-views could
5
be 3
minutes.
hours.
Raw used to be 2 hours and 5 minutes. It would start at 9 p.m. and it would go off air at like 11:05.
And that's the issue that I have because they cannot produce good television for 3 hours straight. And, all of us diehard wrestling fans have been dying for WWE to go back to 2 hours. And unfortunately, the reason why they won't is because all the commercials, all the money that they're making from it. It's all about the money.
Do you want to blend in another topic with this topic, seeing as it's sort of, based on the same thing?
Yeah, we can. I know exactly what topic you want to blend into this, and I think we definitely should.
It just came out yesterday. Nick Khan did an interview with Yahoo, or Yahoo they're the ones that like picked up the story or whatever. Apparently, WWE and Nick Khan are very into the idea of making SmackDown 3 hours now. So we're gonna have 3 hours of Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown. It's all the advertisement money, bar.
It's all about the money at the end of the day, and it's so annoying because 3 hours is just too long for a television show. Like 2 hours is fine, and like we were talking about the whole adult thing, and something I do want to add to that before we dive more into the SmackDown thing. At the end of the day, WWE should, go back to, being PG-13 or TV-14 And the parents should be able to make the decision if, they want their kid to watch it or not.
Yep.
And I think that that's okay, because there's kids that are playing Call of Duty. There's kids that,
Playing
are
GTA.
watching UFC and watching MMA. And I think that it should be the parents' decision whether or not the kid, can watch it or not. I, was fortunate enough to watch it, and I'm glad that I grew up, during the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression era. Because, wrestling is way better when there's no filter on it.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be, go extreme with it like MJF telling everybody in Texas that, all their kids should have been aborted or anything like that. But like having a more adult themed, like, language, like, making it sound more natural, allowing, ass and shit and, stuff like that. I'm not saying, everybody has to say the F word or everybody has, some of the harsher words or whatever. But I'm so sick of seeing grown ass women and grown ass dudes being like, I'm gonna kick your butt.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound natural.
But now, with WWE adding that third hour to SmackDown, it's only going to harm it. SmackDown has been better than Raw ever since Raw, got the 3 hours. And if you're just going to, add a third hour to SmackDown, it's not going to be as good as it used to be. SmackDown is just fine, 8 to 10.
Unless you have 2 hours of nothing but bloodline stuff.
Seriously, man, that's like the only way I could see it being 3 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes can go to the bloodline, and then 30 minutes for the rest of the roster.
Yeah. I was going to say Gunther, and then I remember he's on Raw.
Oh, thank God he's on Raw, man, over SmackDown. Because 3 hours is a pretty long time to watch some wrestling. And if I can have people that I enjoy watching, like Gunther, then it kind of makes it a little bit easier for me to watch. Because our job is to watch this stuff and, review it and react to it. And to give our, takes on it.
Yeah. Subscribe for our misery. It'll ease the pain a little bit. It's like painkillers, man. Every time you subscribe, it eases the pain that we have to suffer watching this bullshit.
Or if you're a listener, follow us on, Spotify or Apple Podcast.
Hey man, my voice loves being downloaded, bro. So download the fuck out of us, man.
That's right. And guys, we'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling Podcast 58. One thing We Are Wrestling recommends you to do is support your local independent promotions. They are the stars of tomorrow. And you never know, sometimes when you go to these shows that might only have 10 to 30 people, you could be seeing the next future WWE champion. Maybe even the next AEW star. And through the years, I've always been a huge advocate to supporting independent wrestling. And you can't go wrong. It's a cheap night out, you get a good time with the family, and you get to watch some good old wrestling. Independent wrestling, that's where usually a young professional wrestler starts their career. And having these opportunities to perform in front of crowds is a great way to get exposure to where they will eventually be on your television screen watching them every week. We recommend you guys to support indie wrestling. And every week on the We Are Wrestling podcast, we love to pick one random YouTube comment and showcase it for our comment of the week. And this week, the winner is at KBanks434. And this was on one of my, AEW Dynamite reactions last week, Sammy Guevara's babyface promo reaction. And one thing that I did, during this whole thing, I was very upset that there was no reactions to Sami Zayn. Like, it felt like the crowd was dead. And that's something I believe I said in the reaction. Well, at KBanks434 said, and I quote, "The crowd wasn't dead. I was there," with the crying emoji.
Hey, man.
How do you feel about that segment with Sammy Guevara? last Wednesday?
I didn't mind it, but I didn't really care for it either. It wasn't like, I don't know. Like it was good. I liked, obviously you're probably talking about, after he, I think he was beat Lee Moriarty or whatever. He was talking about how he wants the AEW World Title, which I think is we're gonna carry on into having some kind of backstage segment with Jericho and Sammy, and Sammy's gonna be like, I'm gonna bring the title back to JAS, and he's not gonna do it, and it's gonna lead to a match at Wembley Stadium, possibly between Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, and we said that, on our AEW, Double or Nothing predictions, which if you guys want to listen or watch that, recommend you guys to go check that out after this podcast. But I do think that, like, maybe the crowd wasn't dead during it, but you have to realize we're viewers, most of us. We're watching the product, on our, television screen, and we're not there. And a lot of the times, on TV, like, things don't come out the way that they do in person. Like, in person, it could be, electric. But on TV, the producers, they can lower down the electricity and, it could just feel boring. And the crowd was great for, I'd say most of the show. But that Sammy Guevara promo, I know what the goal was. The goal was for Sammy Guevara to go out there and try to cut a babyface promo because they want him to go back to being that underdog. And he didn't, execute it properly. Like, he cut this great promo. I was behind it, but it felt like the crowd wasn't behind it. And maybe I used the wrong word during the reaction, but I figured, I would give, K-Banks 434 the comment of the week, because a lot of us, wrestling podcasters out there, we really don't talk about, like, the differences between being in a live crowd than being, in, like, watching it from, our television screen. There's a huge difference.
There's a huge distinction, man. And, if seeing something over, getting over and getting a good reaction live is a lot different than, on your television. So, because, you have commentary, commentators talking, and obviously people in the audience aren't fucking mic'd up or whatever. So it's not going to have really, really clear audio, so.
Mm-hmm. And we want to congratulate at KBanks434 for the comment of the week. And if you want to enter, the We Are Wrestling comment of the week, all you have to do is go to our YouTube channel, We Are Wrestling, and comment on any of the videos. That is how you enter. And I wonder if there is any, winners from, the comment of the week that has, listened to our takes on their comments. Because we haven't gotten one yet.
I don't know, man.
I'd be paying attention to them comments. But moving on now to our next topic here. There's been an injury bug going around in, pro wrestling, specifically with the women wrestlers. So, there's reports that Liv Morgan will be getting surgery on her shoulder. That's why she had to relinquish, her tag team championship. And now they got Raquel, teaming with, a random Shotzi. Then, Dakota Kai tore her ACL, which they actually both got injured in the same match because Dakota Kai, protected Liv Morgan, which, prevented, a worser injury for Liv Morgan. And unfortunately, Dakota Kai tore her ACL while doing it. And Mercedes Moné, she had a New Japan match and she actually broke her ankle.
I gotta say, man, congratulations to Willow Nightingale, bro. Like, even though she probably won because Mercedes got injured, but congratulations to her, bro.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of an injury bug going around, and should the wrestling community be concerned? Because usually in pro wrestling, when one person gets injured, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, I don't think that these are going to be the last couple.
Oh, the last person too, Jamie Hayter. She's injured too.
Jamie Hayter's injured.
That was the fourth person I was thinking of.
there's probably other people that are injured right now that we're not even thinking of, or that it's probably gonna happen to, knock on wood. But it's that time of year, pro wrestling is not ballet. Pro wrestling is not, oh, we're gonna film this like filming a movie or whatever, to where you're in 98% of the show or the scenes, but you have a stunt double, so you don't have to fucking brace for that impact. Uh, Pro wrestling is a live stunt show, man. That's pretty much how to sum it up. So, injuries come with the territory. As long as nobody, gets their neck broken or like some kind of like serious injury or whatever, um, you know, and like I don't want to necessarily say this is a bad thing, because I'm sure, obviously getting injured sucks and having to go through all that shit sucks. But I look at it as, it gives them an opportunity to, get off the road and heal up and, take some time off and, just enjoy being at home for a little while and stuff like that. So I don't want to say it's
I
like,
know where you got
oh,
that perspective from. Rey
what?
Mysterio, Impulsive. Because he
He
mentioned how, like, the injuries, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because he would be able to give his body a break and he
he
would
did
be
say
able
that.
to be with his family.
He did say that. I wasn't even thinking about that, to be honest with you.
Wow.
I only watched the podcast once. I haven't gone back and rewatched it. But I actually do remember him saying that. So, but like getting injured sucks. It's never a good thing or whatever. But it gives them a chance to get off the road and sort of rebalance their life and get back to a lot of the time when you get injured and you come back and you spend that time rehabbing and stuff like that. Sometimes, like with that time off and being able to heal up your body, you come back better than before you left. So I don't want to
Very
say
true.
it's like, as long as it's nothing serious like a broken neck or anything, I do think that it gives these women, some time to rest at home, and it can't be that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do feel very bad for Dakota Kai because I know
Yeah.
she's, dealt with injuries throughout her entire WWE run, going from one injury to another, and now, tearing her ACL. She's definitely going to be out for, 6 to 9 months. That's a pretty long, process to recover. Liv Morgan, I feel very sorry for her because, her and Raquel, they were starting to, get some momentum there as, a tag team. And Liv
Don't get me
Morgan
started on
has always
fucking
been,
Raquel, bro. Don't get me fucking
and
started
Liv,
on that.
okay. This is about Liv Morgan, not Raquel. And Liv Morgan, has been, one of the most popular, women wrestlers in WWE right now. Alex Johnson, that's, his, biggest, crush in, all of wrestling. Got to give, one of our We Are Wrestling maniacs, Alex Johnson, a shout out there because he loves Liv Morgan. Goes on Danny streams all the time, talks about her, goes on her pay-per-view streams and talks about her all the time. But now Mercedes Moné, breaking her ankle. That's unfortunate too because she's had a lot of momentum with New Japan and she's been actually, killing it out there, putting on great matches, and she's even talking about, moving like to Japan too.
She has that was a thing a while ago that she had mentioned.
And Jamie
Uh
Hayter's the AEW Women's World Champion too. So we don't even know what's going to happen there when she fights, Tony Storm on Sunday. We don't
I
know how
mean
serious the injury is.
is the match even gonna happen tomorrow? We don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know. But that's the thing, man, that, really sucks with injuries because I see where you're coming from because, it does give the wrestler a time to reset. And sometimes, they need that. Like one person for me in particular was Charlotte Flair. I was getting really sick of her. And when she came back, like, I'm still not the biggest fan of her, but I'm not as annoyed with her as I once was because she had that long break. And
Yeah.
sometimes, it is good, but it just sucks that, they are, on the sideline and they have to, recover. Because yes, like they get to be off the road, but now like they have to go to rehab every day and like they have to, get themselves right because that's where, they make their money doing what they
Yep.
love and doing this that we talk about.
Yep. Hopefully they, get back to 100%, get back to doing what they love. But like I said, being on the road all the time can't be easy, and this gives them a chance to reset and enjoy. I'm pretty sure they all have nice houses and nice properties and stuff like that. But being on the road all the time, you don't really necessarily get to enjoy. So it might allow them that opportunity to enjoy being at home for a little bit without worrying about flights and planes and hotels and fucking being in this city tomorrow and that city, yesterday, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, just the hustle and bustle of all the travel that they have to do. Primary that mostly WWE more so than AEW, but still, like as long as nobody's like seriously injured, like a career threatening injury, a torn ACL and stuff like that is a very easy, to come back from. I mean, it's been done
Mhm.
before.
Oh yeah,
I
all over
feel
the place.
I feel like that's one of the most common injuries in pro wrestling is a torn ACL or something like that.
Same thing
Um,
with basketball as well because it's like with the knees and like when you're doing like a pro contact sport like basketball or pro wrestling or even, football, the ACL is one of the most common, knee injuries that happen.
yep. So, I mean, hopefully they come back soon, and thoughts are with them, and hope everything is going smooth, man.
And, my final thoughts on this, I really do, wish Liv Morgan, Jamie Hayter, Dakota Kai, and Mercedes Moné, a speedy recovery. I really hope that, the dominoes, stop here because we're going into, the summertime and the summer of, 2023. We got a lot of big things happening coming up with, Money in the Bank in the UK. We have Wembley Stadium, All In, SummerSlam in Detroit. We have some really big shows coming up, and I really hope that, the injuries they stop and hopefully, we can have a really good summer with, great pro wrestling and
And
sports entertainment.
just because Liv Morgan, tore ACL and stuff like that, depending on how bad the tear is, I mean,
Nope, Dakota Kai was the one that tore
uh,
ACL, not Liv Morgan. Liv
Liv
Morgan
Morgan,
had the shoulder injury.
yeah, she had the shoulder injury, but like either way, like depending on how bad it is, there is a possibility that they could be back before SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or whatever. It all depends on how bad the tear is. You know what I mean?
It's possible. We just have to wait and see. But moving on now to our last topic before we get into the main event topic for 58. On Kevin Nash's recent podcast, the Collect podcast with Kevin Nash, he revealed that former TNA backstage guy, ring announcer, interviewer, pretty much the jack of all trades, Jeremy Borash is Triple H's new right-hand man, similar to Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard being Vince McMahon's right-hand man. Borash, his official title in WWE right now, is the Senior Director of Content and Brand Development. How do you feel about this move? Because, of course, you and I, we both, watched Impact Wrestling and we're very familiar with, Jeremy Borash.
Yeah. Jeremy Borash. I liked him on TNA and Impact. That's really like all I know him from. Obviously, I wasn't like a diehard TNA guy like you, so he has no like nostalgia vibe. Like I don't have anything like what's the word I'm looking for. Like I don't have any like like you're very nostalgic whenever you see him, and yeah, it brings you back to your childhood and stuff like that. I'm not like that. I'm not to that level. But
Well, here's one thing I bet you didn't know about Jeremy Borash.
he was in WCW, wasn't he?
I don't know about that, but Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy's last run in Impact Wrestling when they did all those cinematic matches and the whole broken Matt Hardy character?
Yeah.
A lot of that was, Jeremy Borash. He produced all that, and he was the one that came up with it.
I mean, I hope he produces good television in WWE because God knows WWE needs some good television. Isn't his job title that he is now? Wasn't that Jeff Jarrett's before Jeff Jarrett got fired or something or left or whatever it was?
Yeah, the senior director of content and brand development. Yep, that was Jeff Jarrett's, former job title.
And I'm pretty sure Jeff Jarrett had an issue with Jeremy Borash at one point in TNA. So Jeremy Borash pretty much took Jeff Jarrett's job.
Well, they've always been super close to them too. They've always had, respect for one another.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, man, like being a diehard TNA fan, man, it feels great to hear this news from Kevin Nash's podcast because Jeremy Borash, he was one of, the staples of Impact Wrestling, and he did everything, which I don't know how he was able to do everything. He was hosting live events at one point. He was, being, a ring announcer. He was doing interviews backstage. He was doing, producing. He was, really doing everything, doing all the YouTube exclusive shows. And honestly, he absolutely deserves it. One of the nicest guys. Like, I know a lot of people, have had the opportunity to meet him, and it's always positive things. And he's just such a nice guy. Like, one person, saw these reports and, they commented on it saying how, they were sitting next to Jeremy Borash during Ric Flair's last match. And Jeremy Borash, was really cool, like talking to him the whole time. And, Jeremy, man, absolutely deserves this. And every promotion, they always have a right-hand man. And Vince McMahon, he's always had, Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard. I know Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Dunn, they're still in WWE, but they're not, Triple H's right-hand man. They're still there, to give, their input.
Kevin does a lot of like
stuff.
Kevin Dunn works in the truck. He does like a lot of like the production that we see, like the camera angles and stuff like that. That's Kevin Dunn's job. That's what he does.
Yeah, and
he's the one that missed fucking Edge's first spear back when he fucking returned at the Rumble. His fucking dickhead.
but he also did some good too. He forgot to play Nyla Rose's 10 pretty much like botched Nyla Rose's return. Oh wait, not Nyla Rose.
That was fucking
Nia Jax.
You're fired from the podcast, man. You talk all this shit about fucking Nia Jax, but yeah, you paid to meet her at that convention. You fucking simp.
Well, I did that to get a reaction out of you and Ben, and it was funny seeing your guys' reaction to seeing that like picture of me and her in the vlog. Like, I didn't even show it on the group chat. I just posted it in the vlog, and I was waiting for you and Ben to freaking just go in on me on the messages.
Well, yeah, because we were at the Rumble, and you saw Nia Jax. You were like, I'm fucking done.
Honestly, it was funny though. It was funny to do something.
I will
like
say
that.
she's lost a lot of weight, so congratulations to her. She seems like she's in a good place, but she's still horrible in the ring. That's not going to change anything.
Yeah, like our issues with her, has always been, her performance in the ring at the end of the day, because like that's like pretty much what we, criticize. That's like what we give our opinions on with this podcast. But, back to like Jeremy, man, I gotta say, like, it's great though seeing somebody that, worked really hard and never, got any, awards or accolades for what he's done.
They need to replace Jeremy Borash. They need to put him on commentary with Corey Graves, because I'm so sick of fucking Kevin, whatever his name is.
Oh, Kevin Patrick.
I can't fucking stand that fucking guy, bro. They even have him on the After the Bell podcast as a co-host, bro. I can't fucking stand it.
Dude, Kevin freaking Patrick, oh my God, one of the worst commentators. I'd rather have Mike Adamle back. Yeah, so, I got to say congratulations to Jeremy Borash, because he's been such a key role in a lot of, Impact Wrestling success through the years. And, for him to get this, promotion and being a key, like, role player to Triple H's, WWE, and, having him as the right-hand man, you can't pick a better person than him. I got to say congratulations.
Congratulations, Jeremy B, man. B Rabbit. Remember Eminem B Rabbit and fucking 8 Mile? Let's go.
Yes, I do. I actually have a Funko Pop of that.
Oh, God. Of course you fucking do.
I paid retail price for it, and it's gone up now. It's at like $155.
How much was retail?
Oh, dude, I only paid like $13 for the pop.
Damn, bro. A lot of
Crazy.
that shit. You better one of these days you need to fucking spend a day to where you go through all your Funko Pops to see how much each one is worth. You're probably sitting on a gold mine. If I was into Funko Pops, we could start a Funko Pop fucking podcast.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Funko Pops are going down, and I talk about that a lot on my Best One Donnie YouTube channel if you want to hear me rant about that type of stuff over there. And I do a lot of unboxings with wrestling figures and Funko Pops and collectibles. Pretty cool. But with that being said, it's time for the main event topic for this week's episode of the We Are Wrestling Podcast 58. And I'm glad that this report came out like 20 minutes before we started recording this, because I really didn't know what was going to be our main event topic because of how
We were a little
not exciting
flustered,
the
man.
topics are this week due to the pay-per-views and stuff.
Yep.
But WWE is reportedly expected to be making cuts to talents within the next 6 weeks. The reports state that a minor batch of releases will take place before July 1st, but no names have been confirmed at this time. What are your thoughts on this? And after, I want to talk about who we think should be some of those guys that should be cut.
I'm pretty sure it's pretty much common practice once, a company gets sold, they shut down some divisions, they shut down, they acquire some of the losses and some of the money that they spent by letting some workers go and stuff like that. So it's pretty common. It's not like this is the first time it's ever happened. But I will say, man, I feel like this is a habit that WWE is getting into to where, they'll hire people for 2 years and then they'll just have one day to where they just have a fucking mass firing and a mass release and just release all kinds of people. Um, so hopefully whoever this is, because no names have come out, so we don't know, we don't know the full details. But within the next 6 weeks, man, we're gonna have a lot to talk about over the next couple of weeks or whatever on the podcast and extras and stuff like that regarding this match release. I think we're gonna be seeing, because I mentioned this on my Raw stream on Monday. Maxine Dupree, she's starting to wear clothes that have stars and resemble, Alpha Academy on her clothes and stuff like that. And we haven't seen the rest of the Maximum Male models. So I do think Mansoor and Mace are going to be getting released. I do think Maxine Dupree, they decided to keep her with Alpha Academy and not break them up.
Yeah, because Chad Gable and her have really good chemistry. Same thing with Otis and her.
And like she shook Chad Gable's hand when he got the win on Monday night or whatever. So I could see them getting released. I could see Angel Garza getting released because they don't really necessarily use him. I could see Akira Tozawa getting released. Like a lot of the lesser known guys that you don't necessarily see on TV all the time, I could see them getting released. Hopefully it won't be anybody big. I mean, one of the bigger names that we saw during the last match release was Bray Wyatt. That came out of left field. Like nobody's expected that.
Oh yeah, I remember that day. I fucking ranted. I don't even know if that video is still up on here.
Oh yeah, you should find it. And, I posted it for like a throwback Thursday or something. Hopefully we don't see anybody big or anybody of main event stature getting released or whatever. But you never know. They're gonna want to recoup some of the money during the sale. Which means like a lot of the bigger name contracts. Like somebody like Angel Garza or Akira Tozawa, they're not making this they're not making the same amount of money as somebody like AJ Styles or Finn Balor or Damian
I would hope
Priest.
not.
You know what I mean? So they're gonna want to release people with the bigger contracts before people with the smaller contracts. That way they recoup some of their losses. That's what I'm a little afraid of.
Yeah, so we hear these reports a lot, and I think it's been a couple years since we've gotten like a big mass release of talent. And honestly, especially now with the new direction WWE is going in, Triple H, has different visions for, what he wants than what Vince wants. And, there's certain guys that Vince wants, but Triple H might not want. And now it's like, the same thing. And I think there's really nothing to worry about here. I think that, it's time to cut some of the dead weight. It's been a while since, WWE has done, a mass release. And there's a lot of guys I feel like that definitely deserve so much more. And one of, the guys that I could definitely be seeing in this mass release are the tag partners for Joe Gacy, who have been, asking for, their release, getting out of
Yeah.
their contract. I could see, them definitely being one. I definitely see a lot of NXT people getting cut probably because, normally that's like what they try to do. But like at the same time, like there's always a balance, and I feel like WWE and AEW just don't have a fucking balance when it comes to this shit. Like, AEW does too much blood. WWE does no blood. There's nothing in between. And the same thing could be said when it comes to the way that they do business when it comes to, releasing talent. WWE, they, release talent once or twice a year. They do like a whole big thing. And AEW, they just let the people's contracts run out. I think that like there's really a balance there. I think it's okay for people to do releases because like you have to continue to evolve your product. And if you have a lot of dead weight and guys that you're not utilizing or using properly under your books, that's just money being wasted at that point. But the thing that concerns me about these, mass releases are some of these Triple H guys, because I know that a lot of them are making a ton of money and some of them have not really transitioned well with the main roster. And that's something that I'm really concerned about. I think a couple people that are definitely safe that are Triple H guys, Bronson Reed, he's not going anywhere. I think, Johnny Wrestling, he's not going to go anywhere. But now a guy like Karrion Kross or Bray Wyatt, that's what scares me.
Bray
Because
Wyatt's not even listed on the internal roster anymore. Nobody knows what's going on with him.
And that's the part that concerns me a lot because we know Karrion Kross and Bray Wyatt are making a ton of money. And Karrion Kross, like he had a great feud with Drew McIntyre, and then after that, he's been really lost in the shuffle.
He's going to be starting a feud with AJ Styles. He had a promo on a backstage thing on Friday, and he held up a card. He called him Allen, but he held up a card and it was AJ Styles. So he dealt with Shinsuke Nakamura. Now he's going to AJ Styles. He's doing it. He's running the gauntlet, trying to figure out where he fucking wants to go.
It's like spinning a wheel, and then whoever it lands on, that's who he feuds with for 3 weeks, and then loses, and then it's on to the next card.
I mean,
it's like you're playing. It's like you're spending money. You're playing blackjack, and you keep losing.
AJ Styles and Karrion Kross, though, they like if it's built, it could be a really good feud.
Yeah, but like so far, they have not really done that with him, and they need to. And that's the thing that just concerns me because I know how talented Bray Wyatt, I know how talented Karrion Kross is. Last week, I expressed, my frustrations about Bray Wyatt. Same thing with Ben. And we really dived into that with the whole, internal roster topic. Definitely recommend you guys to check that out. But with Karrion Kross, like that's somebody that I see so much potential in. And like it's just not working right now. And it sucks because I know Karrion Kross has the talent. The way he was booked in NXT was fantastic. The way he was built in Impact Wrestling was fantastic. AAA, fantastic. And I think AEW, he would be booked as a top guy over there.
We saw him at Northeast Wrestling. He went up against MLW's Richard Holiday.
Former MLW.
Yeah, former MLW.
But man, that's the thing that concerns me about these mass releases are guys that aren't being used properly that, are going to get released. Even though it's going to be better for certain guys long term, I just don't think that this mass release is going to be a big thing. I think a lot of people, are overthinking it because of what we saw in the last few years. I think a lot of it's going to be NXT cuts and, guys like Humberto Carrillo and like Angelo Garza and just guys that just aren't being used at all, I think.
Hopefully it's the Maximum Male Models too. We need to get them the fuck off of television, bro. Mansoor was such a great character. Remember, they gave him a lot of they gave him a lot of big showings at Saudi Arabia shows or whatever. Hometown guy. He grew up in Saudi Arabia, and I was in WWE, traveling the world, and now they have him into like this gay porn star, fucking supermodel gimmick that's and Mace, man.
Moss.
Whatever the fuck he is, bro. Oh my god, what a disaster his
Well,
transformation was.
no, that's the thing with like Moss. Like he's transitioned all over the place in WWE. He was training in the Performance Center. Then they had him as a commentator for a couple weeks on Raw, but then he wanted to get back into wrestling. So then he did the whole Retribution thing that didn't work out, and now doing the whole Maximum Male Models thing, which I think could have worked under Vince McMahon, but Triple H has a whole nother vision for what he wants, and Maximum Male Models is not in Triple H's plans.
Didn't I say Maximum Male Models was not going to work? And guess what? I was right about that too. People need to start listening to me more, damn it.
And I think, that's the best way to end the main event topic and this week's episode of the podcast.
Absolutely, bro. I'm wiped, man. We from
to the listeners and to the watchers, let us know, in the comment section below what your thoughts are, on all the topics we covered this week. Nothing crazy because, of course, we have, the watch along to Night of Champions today. And tomorrow we have the watch along to AEW Double or Nothing. So there's really not a lot of crazy wrestling news, but let us know your thoughts on the topics we covered. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure to smash that like button now or download this episode to show your support. If you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, or if you're listening to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, follow us. All the links down in the YouTube descriptions below. You can go follow Danny and I on our social medias and other YouTube pages, all that down below. In addition, you want shorter clips, go check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. All the links down below. And of course, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.